The parking lot sat quietly behind a modest commercial building, tucked away from the bustling streets of a busy downtown area. The building's owner, a middle-aged man named Daniel, had run his small business there for over a decade. The lot wasn't huge, just 6 spaces, carefully painted and clearly marked as private parking. Violators will be towed. For Daniel, those spots were not just convenience. They were a necessity. His employees and customers relied on them every day, and without them, running his business would become a nightmare. But there was one problem. A sleek black Mercedes began showing up in the lot almost every weekday morning, occupying one of the reserved spaces without permission. At first, Daniel thought it was a simple mistake. Maybe someone visiting a neighboring building got confused. But when it happened again and again, and he noticed the same personalized license plate reading Windig, he realized it wasn't an accident. The car belonged to a local lawyer named Richard Hollis, known around town for his arrogance and ruthless attitude in both courtrooms and daily life. One Monday morning, Daniel caught Richard stepping out of his car. Daniel approached him calmly and said, "Hey there, this is a private lot. I really need all these spaces for my business. Would you mind parking somewhere else?" Richard, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, barely glanced at Daniel. With a smirk, he said, "It's just one spot. What's the big deal?" And walked away without waiting for a response. Daniel sighed. He didn't want trouble. He believed in handling things amicably. But when Tuesday came, the Mercedes was there again. Wednesday too. Each time, Daniel asked politely, trying to appeal to reason. Each time, Richard dismissed. Him sometimes laughing, sometimes saying, "Relax, nobody cares," or "You can't stop me." Daniel considered towing the car, but quickly realized it wasn't ideal. Towing companies charged high fees up front, and Daniel would have to pay out of pocket. Even if he managed to tow Richard's car once or twice, he suspected the lawyer might retaliate with legal threats. Richard was, after all, well-connected and unafraid to bully people through litigation. Weeks went by, and the problem didn't go away. Daniel's employees often had to park down the street, hauling supplies and deliveries on foot. Customers complained about not finding parking. Frustration built, and Daniel felt powerless. But deep down, he wasn't the type to give up. He believed there had to be a smarter way, something that would make Richard stop once and for all. Then, one Friday evening, Daniel noticed something. Richard's car was still in the lot long after business hours. Normally, Richard would leave by 6 p.m., but this time it stayed overnight. Saturday morning, it was still there. Daniel asked around and learned that Richard had left town for the weekend to attend a luxury golf retreat. That's when Daniel's idea formed. It wasn't immediate anger that drove him. It was a calm, deliberate sense of justice. If Richard thought he was untouchable, maybe it was time to prove him wrong legally, cleverly, and permanently. Daniel called a local fencing contractor and explained exactly what he wanted. By noon on Saturday, workers arrived with lumber, posts, and a gate. Together, they built a sturdy wooden fence that enclosed the parking lot's rear section completely. It wasn't just a simple barrier. It fully surrounded Richard's Mercedes, boxing it in like a pen. There was no way to drive it out without dismantling the fence. Daniel made sure to keep the fence entirely on his property line. Perfectly legal and UNCHALLENGEABLE. By Sunday afternoon, the job was done. Daniel stood back and looked at the result. The Mercedes sat trapped, still gleaming under the sun, but now uselessly caged behind freshly painted timber. Daniel even installed a lock on the gate for good measure. He chuckled quietly to himself, imagining Richard's reaction when he saw it. Monday morning came, and Daniel didn't have to wait long. Around 8 a.m., Richard's silver-haired head popped up over the fence, his face a mask of shock and rage. He marched into Daniel's office without knocking. "What the hell is this?" Richard bellowed. "You fenced in my car. You can't do this." Daniel remained seated behind his desk, calm as ever. "Actually," he said evenly, "I can. The fence is on my property. You left your car here overnight, which means you were trespassing." "I simply built a fence on my own land." Richard's face turned red. "I demand you take it down right now, or I'll sue you for everything you've got." Daniel shook his head. "I'll happily take it down for a fee. Let's call it a construction and inconvenience fee. $500, cash or check. Once that's settled, I'll have my guys remove the fence so you can get your car out." Richard sputtered, pointing a trembling finger. "This is extortion." "No," Daniel replied calmly. "This is property management. You've been warned repeatedly. I'm not towing your car or damaging it. I'm just controlling access to my own lot." The lawyer stormed out, calling his office, threatening lawsuits. But after speaking with his own legal team, he realized Daniel was right. The fence was perfectly legal. If he wanted his Mercedes back without a lengthy court battle, one he might very well lose, he had no choice but to pay Dot by late afternoon. Richard returned, fuming, a check in hand. Daniel accepted it, called the fencing contractor, and by evening, the gate was opened. Richard drove away without a word, his face pale with humiliation. The employees and nearby business owners who had watched the saga unfold couldn't hide their grins. From that day forward, Richard never parked in Daniel's lot again. In fact, word of the story spread quickly around town. People started jokingly referring to Daniel as the fence guy, admiring the clever, nonviolent way he had handled the situation. Even Richard's colleagues reportedly teased him for weeks about being outlawyered by a shop owner with a wooden fence. For Daniel, it wasn't just about revenge. It was about standing up for himself without sinking to the same arrogant level as Richard. He had found a way to win with patience, intelligence, and a little creativity. In the end, justice wasn't loud or aggressive. It was quiet, methodical, and unforgettable. And every time Daniel walked past that section of the lot, he couldn't help but smile. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about shouting or fighting. It's about building a fence and letting the